Well, here we go again. It is time for at least another round of daylight savings. It is spring, so we're going to spring forward. That means the minute hand goes forward, and in the fall you fall back, which means the minute hand goes backwards, counterclockwise. So I'm going to walk you through the theory behind how to set the time on your mechanical clock or modern clocks as well. I do have a short on this to show just a bunch of examples. Rapid fire if you have a short attention span like me. But I'm going to give you some more theory in this video. It's going to be a little bit longer. So let's start here with this guy. And this only tells time. So you can see it's only got one winding arbor. That means it only does one thing. It tells time only. And here is the thing. This is the most important thing you need to know. The reason that you might not be able to turn a clock backwards, or that you have to be careful with how you turn it forwards, is related to the noise making. Okay, it's not related to the timekeeping, it's only the other stuff. And it's got to trigger those other things somehow. And some trigger mechanisms only work in one direction. Some trigger mechanisms have to be done in a certain sequence. But if it has no trigger mechanism, it makes no noise, then you can spin this minute hand forward or backwards, doesn't matter, as many times as you need to until you get to the right time. Here's another example of that. Only one winding arbor, no noise. Anniversary clocks like this over here are in the same boat. They only tell time, they don't make any noise, so you can spin that minute hand forward or backwards. Now, the opposite end of the spectrum are these American clocks. Now, they have two winding arbors, which means it makes it tells time and it does something else. In this case, it makes noise. It uses the hammer to hit the gong. So with these are the most difficult because they have no way to know what time the hands are pointing to. All it knows is a sequence from 1 through 12 of hitting that gong. And so you can easily get the hands to point to something different than what the gong is pointing to. And that's what we want to avoid. So with these guys, minute hand goes forward only. A lot of times if you go backwards with the minute hand, it can bind up on that trigger mechanism. Also, on these, a lot of the time it will sequence the strike mechanism on the half hour and the hour. Some of them only on the hour, some of them only on the hour, but they also trigger the hammer through a different mechanism on the half hour. Either way, what you want to do is turn that minute hand forward until the hour, wait, let it strike, and then go around to the half hour, let it strike, and you're going to wait for it to finish doing its thing, and then you keep going forward. So again, on these old American types, and they have various different designs and things like that, but they generally look something similar to this. And just remember, minute hand forward only, and wait for it to finish. Cuckoo clocks. These, you can turn that minute hand forward as many times as you need to. No need to wait. You actually can turn them backwards without hurting anything, but the problem is a lot of times when you do, it'll loosen this nut right here, and then that hand can come loose. Now, I do have a video on how to fix that if you run into that situation, but this is kind of one of those do-it-at-your-own-risk things. So I never tell customers to move the hands backwards. I always say minute hand forward only on these because I don't want that hand coming loose. However, it is possible to go backwards without messing anything up, as long as that hand doesn't come loose. Let's go over here to, here's another time and strike. This is probably from the, 60s or 70s, something like that. And it's got two winding arbors, and this one I believe is forward. Yeah, this one's forward only, and you gotta wait for it to finish striking. So a lot of these old, it's kind of antique looking with two winding arbors. Those generally are the ones where you need to wait. But I talk to customers all the time who say that feel like they need to wait for it to finish chiming on something modern like this. The reality is you don't have to. So if you have a clock that's modern, this one's relatively modern. By modern, I mean on the inside, on the back, the movement itself looks modern. Let me show you an example here. See that there? That movement is modern. You'll see a lot of new movements. They have all these dots in the plates. That is usually from a company called Hermley, and there's a few others who did that too. But if you see something like that, then this is a new movement, and you can turn the hands forward or backwards, and you don't have to wait for it to finish chiming or anything like that. So these modern ones, Westminster ones, usually you can turn the hand either way without waiting. Now, interestingly enough, I was reading the Howard Miller documentation the other day. This is a Howard Miller. You see a lot of grandfather clocks like this. It's a Westminster. It's got 3 winding arbors, 1, 2, 3. And they actually say to turn the minute hand backwards, not forward. And a lot of times I talk to customers who see these and they think, oh, I have to turn it forward only and things like that. And actually that's the opposite. In fact, I've seen quite a few where if you're not careful and you're turning the minute hand forward, if it's still in the middle of its chiming sequence or striking sequence, sometimes it can bend some levers and cause some issues. So these are best to turn the minute hand backwards. And again, you don't have to wait for anything. It knows where the hands are pointing. It knows what time it's pointing to. And so you can turn these forward as well. You can spin that minute hand around. Just be careful. If you ever feel like you're pushing the hand, then just wait for a minute. Back it up a little bit and then go again. You never want to bend the hand. You never want to bend the levers on the inside. And that's the biggest concern, is we don't want to bend anything up. Here's a grandfather clock. This is an old German one. You can actually see the mechanism in here. You can't see it very well, but on the front, that's what tells it what time it is. A lot of modern clocks, a lot of German clocks have that so that you can turn that minute hand forward or backwards and just spin it around till you're at the right time. Let's talk about battery-powered clocks. So we've got actually a battery-powered Cuckoo clock, and this one makes noise. And so generally with noise-making clocks, you want to wait and, I'm sorry, not wait. You want to not go backwards. Sometimes if you go backwards, it can bend the little piece of metal that triggers. So inside are these 2 little thin pieces of metal, and one of them gets pulled back and then released, and that's what triggers the sound. And so if you go forward, that works correctly. If you go backwards, sometimes it can bend that metal. So you want to be careful. Now, most clocks, modern quartz clocks, will tell you which way to turn the hands. There's an arrow on the back at the adjustment knob, and so if you're not sure, just look at that arrow. Here's another example. This one makes noise, so I would generally advise to only go forward on this unless the arrow says that you can go backwards. If it doesn't, again, back to what we started with, if it doesn't make noise, it doesn't matter. You can turn that minute hand forward or backwards, and it's not going to hurt anything. So I hope that helps give you guys some examples and instruction on the theory of how to avoid any damage or getting things out of sequence. And maybe that will make daylight savings at least a little bit less painful. I can't give you more sleep, but I can at least tell you how to set your clock. So to give you a summary of the theory, it is spring right now. So on this most difficult example, we're going to spring forward. So take that minute hand, turn it forward, wait, turn it forward, wait, and then back to here, and you've gone forward an hour. If it's fall back, you need to turn that minute hand backwards. Well, on these, you can't. So instead of turning it backwards, just reach in here and stop that pendulum, set a timer on your phone, and come back an hour later, and start that pendulum again, and you're in business. So if you're not sure if you can turn the hands backwards, then you can either A, try it really gently and see what happens, and if it feels like it comes to a stop, then don't turn it backwards. Or B, you can always just stop the pendulum and then come back after an hour. Hope that helps. See you next time.